Welcome back to Nutrapreneur, the hub for unveiling transformative insights into the nutraceutical industry. I'm your host, Bethany. Today, we're thrilled to be joined by David Erlandsson, co-founder of Aliga Microalgae. Aliga is a pioneering European algae producer specializing in microalgae products for food, feed, and dietary supplements. Their innovative approach promises a healthier, more sustainable future for global food systems. Welcome, David. It's so great to have you today.
Oh, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here too. Yeah. Thanks a lot for inviting me.
Yes. So, first off, I think, David, I would like to talk about what inspired the creation of Aliga Microalgae and how did you transition from concept to co-founder of a leading European algae producer?
Okay. Actually, I've always been quite interested in health and nutrition in general, I would say. And then back in 2014, there was an opportunity for my business partner, Michael and I, to invest in a Spanish algae company who actually at the time had developed a very advanced technology to grow algae on land, utilizing growth light, like you grow tomatoes and other crops today. Yeah. So we started to actually invest in that company. We did that for 2 years. But in 2016, we would like to walk in our own direction because we had our own sort of vision how we should do it in a better way, which we also did. So Aliga was founded back in the end of 2016, and we started to raise funds from friends and family and some other investors, and we got going already back in 2016. And I think really what happened was at the time we really wanted to bring algae from a niche product into more like a core food ingredient or core ingredient in general. Because when we were working with algae back in 2014, we're still very much about fish feed and like sort of a low-valued product in that sense, apart from the dietary supplement space, of course, yeah. And we would like to change that and bring algae more into become an ingredient you can use in food to complement soy and pea and all these other type of ingredients that is used today in food applications, but also, of course, in supplements and so on. So that's really where the whole story started. So I became an algaepreneur back in 14. We started more in 16, 17, and from then on, we just continue building on it, I would say, in that sense.
That's great. And, the food and supplement industry is a pretty competitive market. So how does Aliga maintain its promise of producing the highest quality algae ingredients?
Really what we did do when we identified some challenges with algae production, algae products in general, mainly for the food industry when we set up Aliga. And of course, the production or supply chain of algae, most of algae is today cultivated and grown in Asia, a bit in Southern Europe and also a bit in the US. But most of the technologies are using sort of traditional growth ponds where you're growing with algae. And what we identified at the time was the challenge was, of course, the incredibly low yield. I mean, in 1 liter of water, you get around 1 gram of algae biomass. It's equal to 0.1%. So you need so much land to put the water into to grow the algae to get some sufficient amount of volume of the products. And we know that if you're going to supply the food industry, the big players, if they want to buy algae from us, you really need to make sure you can supply them. And the classical way of growing algae, we felt was not really the route we wanted to go. We also saw there are some challenges in general, I would say, with the classical method that depending on the season, you can get, monsoon rain, you get bird shit, whatever, into the ponds, which is actually more or less affecting the core to the product. We really would like to use another way of growing with algae. So instead of growing it phototropically, where you're utilizing sunlight and CO2, we're actually growing it in sterile fermenters in our factory in Denmark and Netherlands. And by doing it that way, we could actually more or less scale the production the way we want it, so we can get larger fermenter and more fermented, scale it up to become a more stable output. And then also we did see that the yield was much higher. For every liter we produced, we got around 100 grams of algae biomass, which is 10%. And also we don't get any contamination. We've got a very stable culture. It's no pesticides, no heavy metals in the product. It's a very clean product. So it's more an industrial process of growing algae, I would say, that we opted for. And that's what we're doing today. So that's the way we are securing the supply chain and the quality of our products we're producing at the moment.
Yes, supply chain can often be a challenge. So it's great that you were
Absolutely.
able to brainstorm and come up with some creative solutions in order to produce more and produce high quality products that provide a consistent supply chain.
Yeah.
And so, also, how has Aliga leveraged technology to innovate microalgae production, especially in enhancing the quality and efficiency of your processes?
Yeah, I think really back in 17, 18, we started with this production technology. But in 2019, we had a food company coming to us and they said, you know what, we love algae. It's a really nutritious, it's a perfect ingredient to use in food and other type of nutraceutical products. Challenge, taste and color. What can you do about that? So we actually set up a product where we want to remove the gene producing the chlorophyll, but do that in a non-GMO method. So more or less what we started to do, we start to remove the gene producing the chlorophyll in a random mutagenesis, like a natural selection way. And by doing it that way, we actually come up with an algae that instead of being green and strong in both taste and color, of course, it's more sort of pale. I would say it's got a white creamish color, which is much easier to use in bakery, plant-based seafood, plant-based meat, and other type of formulations. And also the taste is more neutral. I wouldn't say the taste is not as neutral as water, of course, but it's more neutral compared to green algae. So it reminds more of sort of soy in the sense of consistency of when you're eating it in that sense. So, but since you're blending it with other ingredients, you don't really get the taste. It becomes one of the ingredients in the whole formulation. So more or less, you bring in algae from, and at least we saw that as a way of bringing algae from a niche product into core ingredients, by making it more palatable for the consumer, and therefore you can widen sort of the concept of using it in different type of prototypes, formulations, and food systems, and so on and so forth as well.
Yes, that's great. I'm sure that's really been able to expand your business across a lot of different industries, because I think when you hear about algae products, you're often thinking, ooh, that's probably going to have a very strong taste, but having a neutral algae ingredient that can be utilized in all sorts of products is really groundbreaking.
I think that's really what we saw. So at the moment, we see a lot of traction for our white and the green, I must say, because our green is actually really, really nice taste and color as well in the way we're growing it. But these two products, particularly the white one perhaps, and we do see the demand in, apart from plant-based food, into bakery. We see people using it in plant-based cheese formulations for the B12 and some of the functional properties as well. If we look into the nutraceutical space, it's more like into sports nutrition, protein shakes, and so forth, that you can use the algae to mix it. Instead of getting the green products, you actually have a more like a cream whitish product, which is easy to blend with other ingredients in that sense. And then we have some customers making some prototypes at the moment of sports bars.
This episode is brought to you by NutraPayments.com. If your business needs credit card processing that fully integrates with most major Nutra software platforms, offers the lowest industry prices, and has built-in features like recurring billing, $0 trials, and chargeback prevention, then visit us at NutraPayments.com for a free online quote.
Sachets you can use in drinks and so on and so forth. And actually, I have a company right now who's doing some fizzy drinks with it as well. So I think there's a lot of opportunities to use these ingredients. You just need to find the right application for it in that sense.
Absolutely. And you've described some of the products that this ingredient has gone into already, but can you share with us any success stories or challenges you've encountered in the production and commercialization of your algae products?
Yeah, I would say if I look at the application on algae, it's not an ingredient like standalone, like we did some trials like an algae milk. Okay, but not great. I would say this ingredient has its best space together with other type of ingredients. I mean, an example is we went down to the leading food technology institute in Germany called DIL, where we did some high moisture extrusion, which is a way of creating texturized pieces for example, for plant-based meat, plant-based chicken, plant-based fish, and so on. And the traditional ingredients such as soy and pea, when you use them, mix them with water and use them in an HME process, you get a pretty much, I would say, a product that's not as firm as real meat, and there's some challenge to use it. And we could see, but just adding a few percent of our algae, both with the soy and also with the pea powder in that type of process, you create actually a much longer fiber formation, a better texture, and more juiciness in the sort of the end extruded product, which really mimics the real meat and the real chicken, or whatever, is much more than just using soy and pea or even fava beans in that sense. So I would say our algae is like a complement, it's an add-on into that formulation. And what I'm really proud and happy with that we see now, we have the companies in Sweden and in Germany and so on, using this in high moisture extrusion processes, but adding just to get a better texture and more juiciness of the product to mimic the real sort of deal in that sense. This is plant-based, what we are, in the plant-based food space in that case.
Yes, that's fantastic. And something that we often talk about on this podcast is regulations. So the regulatory landscape is always evolving, it seems. So how does Aliga ensure products remain innovative and compliant with the highest standards and all of the regulations?
When it comes to regulations, I think the challenge with algae in general, I would say, I mean, we all know algae is healthy, it's very nutritious. There are around, I would say, 1 million different species of microalgae out in the seas and the lakes and the oceans all over the world. But in Europe, where we are based, there are only 6 strains that are approved for application in food. So when we set up the product, we really need to, Aliga back in 2016, we had to look for one of the algae strains that is actually approved for novel food. Because you can, of course, apply for non-novel food or for novel food improvement, but we know that can take up to 5 years, cost tons of money. So we opted for a strain called Chlorella, which is one of the 6 strains that is actually allowed by EU today to be consumed by the citizens or in Europe today. And it's also one of the few strains that you can grow heterotropically through precision fermentation, the way we are doing it. It doesn't need sunlight. You can actually grow by glucose and water and heat in that sense. So from the regulatory point of view, we were very clear from the beginning to use an algae that actually fitted into the regulatory environment that there is in Europe today. Because we never looked into getting a new one and get it approved, because we just thought it would take too much time and energy and to be too costly for us in that sense.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And you're obviously running a successful business that continues to grow. And so what advice would you give to entrepreneurs that are looking to enter this space, particularly in the algae sector?
I would say, even though it's not a massive market and there's great potential, it's still quite competitive, because a lot of Asian producers have been in the market since the 1960s, both in Taiwan, India, and China, and so on. So there is a lot of competition, and there's, of course, a lot of innovation in that sense as well. I think if you're going to be successful, as in all businesses you're doing, particularly the algae one, perhaps where we are operating in, you need to have a really good, unique selling point. I think you need to come in and have a product that differs from the competition. And also, you need to be price competitive, because this is the price competitive market. Even though we are growing it in sterile fermenters, the biggest competitors we're having is actually the one grown in the ponds in Asia, particularly when we're selling into the supplement or the Nutra space in that sense, and also feed, if I have to add on that one. And then if you would like to get into the food space, really make sure that you have the supply chain, you have all the sort of certification needed. And this was actually one of the things we did quite early on, that our production facilities are FSSC 22000 approved, is GMP Plus approved, we're halal and kosher, so all that is already done, and it costs a ton of money to do it. It's worthwhile, because you don't want to go all the process with the customer, they're trying the product, like it, would like to start to buy it from you, and then it just stops because you don't have the certifications in place. So we invested both time and money like quite early on in order to have that ready, where we are scaling up the production and starting supplying food producers and also supplement producers for that matter.
Yes, that's great advice. And you bring up a great point about investing in those certifications, because I think a lot of startup businesses are a bit alarmed by the cost of those certifications, but they truly are so important. And like FSSC 22000 is a globally recognized certification, and it's just really important to have that for this type of business.
Yeah, I think in general, you have to remember you're always competing against the big players in the market, like Cargill, Givaudan, Ingredient, Carrier, all these who are big muscles, been in the market for a long time. And particularly in the food industry, I would say, when you're introducing a product to a food producer, they're always looking for the second best alternative. So if you're not good enough, pricing, quality, whatever it's going to be, they shift you out and take another product instead. So if you cannot meet the demand in volume and the pricing, etc., it's difficult for you to get into that space, I would say. So that's also why I would say a lot of the big players are the successful ones, because they have the muscles to put into R&D, new product developments, and so on. If you're a newcomer, it can be actually quite high barrier to enter the market due to the investment cost is so high from the beginning. In that case.
It's definitely a challenge.
And that stops you then in that case. Yes. So it is a challenge for many companies, unfortunately, I would say, but that's unfortunately the name of the game.
Right. And looking ahead, what exciting projects or innovations can we expect from Aliga Microalgae in the near future?
Okay, so I think what we're doing is, we're continuing developing our different strains and the products and the way we're applying it, both in the food space and also in the dietary supplement space, where we're actually quite strong today. Of course, we've been in the market for the last 10 years. We're working with farmers who grow other algae species rather than the chlorella we've grown ourselves, which are distributing all over Europe. We are seeing a big demand for our own in-house brand called Aliga Active. It's a brand which is going directly to the B2C market, which are really strong in Denmark. I would say we are the biggest brand in Denmark at the moment, and we're actually expanding into the German and the UK market as well very soon. We went to New York last year to a big trade fair and got a lot of attention for that product there as well. So we might go into the US market with this product. So I would say that's in the algae space. What I think could be quite interesting to know also is that we're growing the algae heterotopically. That means they're using glucose to produce it through precision fermentation. So in the last 5-6 years, we've become really strong in precision fermentation. So we actually have a subsidiary today, which we're owning together with another company, where we have patented a protein that is, I don't know if you know what GLP-1 is. GLP-1 is a sort of protein people are eating to lose weight. You have the big players like Novo Nordisk and other Lilly who having these sort of product you're eating to lose weight. And we, together with this other company, actually patented a complement to that product. So actually increasing the way you can lose weight, and you can cultivate that through our precision technology fermenters, which we're using today. So I would say we see both great developments within the algae space, but also more into the sort of nutraceutical space or / pharma phase. We're coming with products when it comes to regulating the overweight and the blood sugar level in the consumers of these type of products as well. So I think we have a good space of products we're approaching at the moment in that case.
Yes, I think you're definitely latching on to those trends that we're seeing in the market right now. And so that's great to be at the forefront of that.
Thank you.
So as we wrap up our insightful session, we've explored the journey and innovations of Aliga Microalgae. Our deepest gratitude to David Erlandsson for sharing Aliga's story and vision for a sustainable future. For listeners that are eager to learn more about Aliga or to explore their products, we've provided the necessary links. Do subscribe and share your thoughts, and join us in the spotlighting the nutraceutical world on social media. Until our next episode, stay informed and inspired in the expansive world of nutraceutical innovation.